So, Mark, we've all had a rough night out in the casino. We're tired. We've partied too hard. We've gone too hard. And yet our degenerate selves cannot stop. Did you see this video of this sleeping gambler? Crazy, but relatable.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever taken a header while gambling, but I'm sure there's people out there watching that have. I was impressed, fell, landed on her head, and then got up and sat right back down on the machine and started gambling. Like, who does that?
Yeah, it's impressive. She had like GPS coordinates. She knew exactly where the machine was when she woke up, got right back to it. That is a great gambler right there.
Yeah, usually like you just leave the scene of the crime when you do something stupid like that. Maybe the alcohol had something to do with it, but I mean, I watched a woman walk into the glass trying to enter a Hallmark. You know what she did right after?
What?
She turned around and walked out the entire mall, like just
Yeah,
beelined it
I
to the
would too.
doors and left.
Let's just say this, Mark. Free parking on the Las Vegas Strip is dead. It's dead, it's dead, it's dead, and we are going to see it go away completely over the next, I don't know, year or so. We saw Sahara putting in their enhancements that they say they're not going to charge for parking. And Resorts World, when they opened up free parking to everyone as long as you had a rewards card. Well, now they're launching a new elite tier called Elite, and you're going to need to earn 3,000 tier credits to get free parking.
What a great name. I mean, very inventive. I guess it's better than like Bonvoy or when they come up with these names that don't mean anything and are crap. But yeah, it's just sad to see. And I'm guessing that like everybody's figured out that offering free parking or no resort fees doesn't actually bring people in as much as people complain about them and say, I'll never visit again. Like Virgin tried this. They opened up and said, no parking fees, no resort fees, and it was dead. So I think they've all realized that if you don't charge it, you're just leaving money on the table because the same amount of people are going to come either way. Hotel guests should get it, locals should get it free, and it sounds like they're going to still do the 3 hour thing there. Or like if you gamble so much, you get it free. I think there's ways to make it. I don't mind them having a charge if you're just using the parking lot. But if you go in and gamble or spend some money, you should be able to get that taken care of.
So they charge $18 a day for self-parking. Valet parking, 25 to 75. That's one of those variable things. I miss the old days of Vegas where you could just valet for free. It was part of the Vegas experience. And even now, like when I have access through elite status, whatever, I never valet park anymore because it just isn't what it used to be. But yeah, like you said, 3 hours free for locals, also 3 hours for everybody else. So you get a short period of time there. The other change that they announced is a change to their tier qualifying year. So they had this weird tier qualifying year that went basically summer to summer, and now they are going to change it to January 4th, 2025, and everything you've earned since last June will carry over. So you have an extra maybe 6 months or so to earn elite status, which is nice, but this is just them realigning that. I don't think they're doing anybody any favors. Again, I'm not shocked or upset because everybody else is charging now.
Yeah, I think it's expected, and I mean it's nice to get the extra couple months to earn a tier you might not have been able to get to. But I don't think I've ever heard anybody knocking down the door of Resorts World has a great program, so I don't even know that it gets you much if you get up there. Now it might get you free parking, which you were getting anyway. So I don't know that it offers a ton, but if you are chasing anything, at least you have that extra time there. But yeah, it's just kind of the way of the world, and that's where we're going, and everybody's going to charge, and people will complain in the comments.
So we have two Rio stories on this show, which is a lot, and I split them up specifically because I wanted this one to stand on its own. Did you see this picture of the new carpet going into Rio, Las Vegas? This is a big throwback to like 90s Las Vegas. It reminds me of some of the carpet that used to be at the Tropicana, some of the carpet I think that used to be at the Rio, even though I don't have vivid memories of exactly what that carpet was. But I feel like we saw carpet like this all over Las Vegas back in the day.
Yeah, this is when the old wives' tales started, isn't it? That the carpet's hideous, so that you have to look up at the machines. You can't stare down at the floor. I mean, this thing it looks rough, but it's hard to judge any casino carpet before there's machines in there. And when it's like the whole space, it always looks a bit, more stark and kind of like off-putting until you put machines on it and everything else. And then it usually comes off a bit better. So right now I don't like it, but I wouldn't be surprised if I did once it's filled.
The current carpet at Rio is terrible. It's very dark and makes the space feel very dark. This is much brighter. I agree with you. It's a lot in this very open space, so we'll see how it works. I remember downtown Grand, if you remember last year, they were installing those carpet tiles and how terrible they looked. And they don't look so bad with all the machines and everything covering them, but they did the mismatch on the patterns and everything. So yeah, I agree with you. I think this will look better. It's very Rio, it's very tropical, and clear that they're going to take this design in a whole different direction and brighten up the place, and it needs it so bad. It is way too dark. Whichever direction they go, they need to brighten it up.
Maybe Rio's going to be the one to bring the theming back, the carnival and everything. It'd be great.
Let's do it. So let's head downtown. Circa Survivor is returning, and they're doing $16 million worth of prizes this year between that and their Circa Million promotion. And the way these work is you pay like $1,000 entry fee and you pick games throughout the whole season. Circa Survivor, you're picking straight up who's going to win, who's going to lose. And Circa Million, you're betting against the spread on a certain number of games, but you pay this money up front and the prizes are huge. And this has been very popular. I talked to somebody just a few days ago who's planning on doing it. Hardcore gamblers love this stuff.
Yeah, I think it offers a lot of value, and if you can make it last a bit longer, you get some play out of your money. I mean, it sounds easy to pick a winner. You have to use each team once. So there's the downfall. If you have like a really, really terrible NFL team, you can't just like keep picking the same team every week. So that's where you get caught up. You kind of have to take a risk here and there. The other one when you're betting against the spread, I think it's 5 games a week, but that's kind of like a cumulative thing where you get the whole season out of it. So for that, I think, for $1,000, if you were going to bet money on games anyway, this is a way maybe you can like restrict the amount of money you're putting out there each week, control your bankroll a little bit more. You put $1,000 down at the beginning of the season and you get a whole season of fun. If you finish in the top 100, you get a prize of some sort. So I think that's a really cool addition to the Survivor. I think I'd probably be out in like week 4 or 5, but you never know.
I think you have until the beginning of September to register for this. What I read and is interesting is you have to register in Vegas, but then you can make your picks, lock them in from elsewhere. So if you don't live in Vegas, you can still do that. I know this attracts a lot of the bigger sports gamblers. It's a big competition. They also pay for lower places. So if you don't win, you still have a chance to earn some money if you finish in a lower spot. So yeah, do it. A perfect feed in for Circa. Love that they continue this, and it's grown every year the last couple of years, so it's nice to see that.
Yeah, and I loved last year when they had a pro gambler that was like in the final 6 with the other guys, and everybody's like, "Do you want to split it up?" And he was the lone holdout because he thought he had an advantage, and then he lost the very next week. So just take the split, man.
Gamblers be gamblers, Mark. They have to, gamble. What kind of gambler would he be? So let's move over to Excalibur. One of the perks a lot of people didn't know about is with gold status or higher, they had a VIP check-in area. So this also had snacks, and I even read that it had beer as well. As of May 22nd, they closed the doors on this place for good. A big downgrade for the Dirty Castle.
I mean, how many gold and above do you think stay at the Dirty Castle? I don't. I don't. Maybe back in the match days when you could match to it from Hyatt, I'm sure people took advantage of it then. But the last couple years, I don't know how much it got used. I don't remember seeing signs for it when we walked through. So maybe it's not the easiest thing to find. I've used these check-ins at other, at Caesar's properties and stuff, and it is nice, especially when you see those long lines. But a lot of times people don't realize they're there. So I think they are underused a bit. And it just kind of, if you know it's there and you have the status, it's great. But for the most part, I don't think people will miss it too much.
And let's be honest, how many of MGM's best players, now I get that they went down to gold, so that opens it up to a lot more people, but how many of them are really staying at Excalibur? I mean, I'm sure there are some, but if you have a choice, even between Luxor or Excalibur, we're not going to get into that debate again. But if you have a choice, you're probably going to be at one of the other properties. Mark hates Luxor's casino so much.
Dirty Castle. Yeah, I hate how like claustrophobic it feels. I feel like Dirty Castle definitely opened up more. Like I said, when we talked about my stay there, if the casino was on the second floor with the whole atrium open, I think that would have been really cool and unique. I know it's a lot less gaming floor, but if they would have put some stuff up there, I think it would have been interesting.
As a reminder, we have our Patreon. Every week we do an after show, talk more Vegas, laugh, have a lot of fun. $5 a month gets you access. Patreon.com/MTM Vegas for all of the information. So one of the coolest things about living in Las Vegas as a traveler over the past, decade or two is seeing more and more international flights come to the city. Harry Reid Airport's grown so much, and now Aer Lingus has announced that as of October, they are going to be flying from Dublin to Las Vegas directly. I love Aer Lingus's name. I love the airline. Haven't flown them yet, though, but they often have pretty good deals with miles.
Yeah, I flew them several years ago, like 2017, 2018, into Dublin, and the business class product was pretty standard, 121. I think they have some weird configurations on their smaller planes. You got to check for that. I'm not sure which one's flying into Vegas, but it was a pretty decent product. They had Jameson 10-year distilled on there, which was good to have, and the food was okay. The service was good. So I think it's a good option. They have a lot of good miles deals. It's just nice to see another, access point for Vegas, especially for Europeans. I know quite a few watch the show. Would you connect through? I know there's direct flights, nonstops from like London and stuff, but would you connect through to get the pre-clearance where you go through all the security stuff in the US to get into the US and Ireland and Dublin and get it out of the way before the long flight?
I've done that on a lot of Canadian flights and somewhere else that I can't remember, maybe in the Caribbean. I do like that. It's very nice to do the pre-clearance and then to just land and you're on basically a domestic flight. So that's really good. Aer Lingus, I'm excited for this. This is another great option. So as you mentioned, we do have British Airways. Here are all of the long haul direct international flights, excluding Mexico and Canada currently. There's not a ton of them, but there's more than ever before. You have Aer Lingus, then you also have British Airways to London, Virgin Atlantic to London and Manchester, Condor and Discover Airlines flying to Frankfurt, Copa to Panama City, Edelweiss flies to Zurich seasonally, KLM to Amsterdam. So a lot of Europe actually, and then Korean Air to Seoul. And then there's one more, Norse Atlantic also flies to London. So London overrepresented, but always good to see more options. And we need more Asia. Come on now.
Yeah, I think, of those options, Aer Lingus is going to be one of the better miles options that you can book with Avios and stuff. This is getting a little into the weeds for this show, but British Airways charges a lot of taxes on award flights, so it's not the best deal most of the time. I would say out of those, KLM might be the best experience, at least out of Europe. So that's a good option there. But Aer Lingus would be my number two personally.
Yeah, KLM, that flight often has award space too. Very easy to get the miles. They charge some fuel surcharges. If this is all is foreign to you, check out 20-minute travel. This is what we talk about on that show all of the time. But this is a great option for Las Vegas. Super excited for it. So let's move back onto the strip and talk Aria. And at their food hall, they have a new store, a new shop, a new restaurant called New Parm. And what's really cool is, I guess this is a famous place, and I've heard really good reviews. Vital Vegas talked about it, but they opened, and then the next day they raised prices. The sandwiches went up by $1, the knots went up $4, the meatballs up $4. Did they just not figure out what to charge before they opened the doors?
You know what I think happened, and this is really terrible. Like, this just kind of shows you where Vegas is at. I think they put in their New York price menu, like New York City, Manhattan. They have several locations there. I think they just put that price in and then they went, well, wait, we're in Vegas. We should be charging more. And, the knots almost doubled. Like, that's nuts. New York City used to be the most expensive place to eat. And now Vegas, like, is substantially more.
I noticed their buffalo cucumbers or whatever it was didn't change in price. So I guess they reached the level at $7 there. But with the meatballs originally $8, I could see why next to that it seemed like a better deal. And I think you're right. Supply and demand, they saw what was selling and they raised the prices substantially on that. Other stuff that wasn't selling so well, it stayed the same. But either way, the sandwiches look incredible.
Yeah, it looks like a really good thing. I mean, just wish that they would have, at least wait a couple weeks before you raise prices. Do you think nobody's going to notice after the first day? It just looks kind of tacky, but the food does look good. And in the reviews, everybody says it's really good. So if you like chicken parm sandwiches, I think this is your spot.
So speaking of food, back to Rio and Hash House A Go-Go. We covered on a previous show how with the Hyatt Globalist breakfast benefit, here we are talking points again, Mark, but people with Hyatt Globalist status were getting free reign on the Hash House menu. And then Hash House in Rio, they restricted it down to like 4 items. And now Hyatt's come in and said, you can't do that. So it's a big battle. We don't know how it's going to shake out. They're supposed to go back to the regular menu though. So I guess that's good news. I suspect we'll have some restrictions.
Yeah, I think, it sounds good that Hyatt's saying that. But as we're going to talk on the 20-minute travel show this week, a little foreshadowing there is Hyatt told another hotel they couldn't do something and they're still doing it. And it sounds like over Memorial Day weekend, it was still a limited menu. So we don't know when those changes are going to come or if they do. Hope so, because those are the terms of the rules. But it just shows that like these brands really don't have that much control, even though they can, slap wrists or maybe take away their brand. It's not their hotel a lot of times. They're just running the program. So they don't have that control like they used to when they owned and operated the hotels.
One good thing here is this is a sort of flagship property for Hyatt. This is much bigger than a typical Hyatt. It's not some random Hyatt place. So the visibility is off the charts. And I'm sure the interactions between brand and hotel owner are. So I'm sure they'll work something out here. We know it was being abused. So I don't really blame them for figuring out a way to crack down. So maybe they'll get together, figure out within the terms how they can do it to give more of a balance to everybody. But I guess we'll keep you up to date on that. Let's move down to Virgin and their boring tunnel. Their tunnel digging machine, Proof Rock, emerged beneath Virgin Hotels Las Vegas. So another station coming there. We talked about how they're building those east lines that are going to go to UNLV and kind of stay east of the strip. So this isn't on that main strip line. Who knows when and if they'll ever start building that. But this is far away from the convention center, and that is good. That means that they've dug quite a lot of tunnel.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go between the convention center, Resorts World, and Virgin, there you go. There's your loop. But no, it's good to see progress, and hopefully we get more usefulness out of this. Right now, I mean, you can't really use it unless you're staying at Resorts World and you want to go to the convention center, or if you're just riding it to check it out. But this adds something. At least you can go between the two properties. Once it gets open, so that will add something there.
We're still years away, but it's good to see this. This is the furthest away. We've only seen hotels right around the convention center up until now. So very nice to see that. Not nice to see what happened on the north end of the strip at the Strat or Atomic Golf, which is attached to Strat. They laid off a bunch of people, and the number is insane. How many people do you think would work there? They laid off 250 people, saying that it's been slow since opening, economic conditions aren't good. If they laid off 200, if it was 50%, did they have 500 workers? How many workers do you need to run a place like that?
Yeah, when I saw this, I actually Googled it just to make sure there's not other locations, and they were firing 250 people across all these different locations. Like maybe they had 5 locations. I would expect 75 people to work there, maybe 100. I don't know how you have 250 that you're laying off and still have enough people to take care of. That's talking about over hiring, which we've talked about with Fontainebleau and stuff, but that's a big property opening. This is just a golf, a Top Golf, essentially. I don't understand what they expected it to be like. It's just kind of bizarre.
Yeah, this is overhiring to a crazy level, and sad for everybody who lost their jobs. That's not good. And didn't they end the email or the letter about it saying warmly, you just been laid off, warmly, kind regards, your manager?
That's probably the stock email response, and they forgot to just change that out, where you have it just automatic signature. I bet you that's what it did. Otherwise it's so weird. I wouldn't say warmly anyway, so it's just weird, period.
But the place looks cool. Hopefully more people will support it, and we don't end up with a situation where they have even more trouble. We want this place to succeed. It looks like they did a great job, put a lot of money into it, and put out a great product. So sorry to see the struggles. And speaking of struggles, Mark, we have our final story, and this comes from Casino Comp Wallet. Now, he has this feud with Fontainebleau. He's been kicked out, I think. I don't know. There's a whole ongoing thing between him, Vegas Policy, and Fontainebleau that we're not all privy to. But he claims that he has access to their financials, and he put this out in public. So we're going to talk about it. He's saying that they're losing $400,000 every single day that they're operating. They have to pay licensing fees for the Fontainebleau name. And basically on a revenue level, they're bringing in $2.1 million a day and spending $2.44 million a day, plus all of the other interest fees, everything else that they're spending. Not a good start if his numbers are correct, which we do not know.
Yeah, Fontainebleau, what do you say, $8,000 a day for the naming rights? Is Fontainebleau that well respected and big of a name that you pay that much? That just seems great. And I know that the owners own the name and all that stuff, so this is basically just a way to pay themselves. So I get that, but you're still that seems a bit much for a name that is only really known in Miami. But it doesn't surprise me that they're struggling. We've talked about how empty it is during the week. It seems to be that they're catching on a bit, and people are enjoying it a little bit more. They're treating the gamblers well. Everybody loves the hotel and the restaurant. So I think they're getting there, and then they definitely overhired. I don't know that it's anything different than normally starting out. You probably do have really high expenses compared to your revenue, trying to figure everything out. So hopefully they get it more in line. But yeah, this feud and the fact that he can't say Fontainebleau properly just drives me nuts. As much hate as we got for saying Fontainebleau properly, I hope he gets 10 times as much for butchering it every day.
He doesn't say Nevada right. He says Nevada. I mean, I'm sorry, but that should be a line in the sand for me right there. But he also claims that they need to make $4 million a day in order to break even. And again, they're at $2.1 million a day now, according to his numbers. Either way, we know the place isn't gangbusters killing it. We've had a lot of good reviews come out of there. A lot of people leave there saying it feels sterile. I've said that myself. Haven't done a full stay there, so I'm not giving the property a review with that opinion. That's just sort of spending some time in the casino. But there's a lot to like about it. I don't get all the hate. I don't hate any of these places. I want them all to succeed, and I really do like them. Resorts World, Fontainebleau, for what they are. And even Virgin, I've talked about on this show how I've come to terms with what that property is. It needs to get better, but let's support these new places. I mean, I don't understand that part, but yeah, if his numbers are right, that's pretty ugly.
Yeah, I think they just need to, kind of fight the good fight for a few more years until the North Strip builds up around them and brings more people down there. Like Wynn just kind of stands out and was so much better, but they even struggled in the beginning. We talked about that, how Mike said, the deals were to be had early on, but I think they knew that they had to come in with aggressive pricing and stuff. And Resorts World and Fontainebleau thought, hey, we're the new kid on the block. We can charge these high strip rates and we'll get people to fill this place. No, you need to get people to fill it. And then once you build a brand, once you build a connection, once you have people that love you, then you can start to charge more and they'll still come. But starting out, you need to give out what you can give out just to get people in the door to stay there.
And just remember, Cosmo, we love to compare the two, struggled so mightily for years and years and years and years. Big success story, MGM buying them. This place is far from a devastating property. So we'll see how the next few years go, few months, whatever it is. Polly C, please say Nevada, not Nevada. I implore you. And I don't know what else to say.
Fontainebleau.
So let us know what you think about anything we talked about today. That crazy Rio carpet, I think it looks great. Aer Lingus international flights to Las Vegas, the Fontainebleau financials, Atomic Golf, 250 employees laid off. All of that, leave a comment. We do 2 shows a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, and we'll be back in a couple days with another show. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody. Boring virgin.
They're boring tunnel. They're boring. What is it?
Boring virgin. You nailed it.
No, I was trying to think of the name of like their tunneling machine.
Yeah, but
Boring virgin.
You still nailed it.